right, and so this is the topic of today's webinar. We are in webinar number 8. We are talking myBIZ compliance. Now, just as we always do, this is the roadmap of where we've come from and where we're going. And so you can see today we are on the 8th webinar. Can you believe it? We started this program in July, or in June, actually, at the end of June. It's been such an amazing journey. And so today we are on the 8th webinar, wrapping up compliance. And then all that remains is webinar number 9, which is going to be our closeout event. It's going to be the graduation. It is really going to be it's the bash of the program, okay? It's unfortunate that it's not a street bash. It's a virtual party, but it's going to be absolutely amazing. Don't forget that in the final session, that is where we are going to have those pitches, where some of you are going to be pitching your business, and there are some amazing prizes that are up for grabs. And so I'm going to share a little bit about that a little bit later on before we kick off, before we end off today's webinar. So please make sure you stay until the end. We're going to dive deep into just some tips for pitching. I'm going to show you an example of how you can prepare your pitch, and I'll talk to you about the details, but just know that we're going to have our final webinar, which is webinar number 9, is going to happen on the 17th of November. Now, very important, you will see that when the communication goes out for that webinar, it's actually going to be one event, all right? It's going to be a 3-hour webinar, so slightly longer than what we normally have, but it's going to be cohort 1 and cohort 2. Everybody will be combined in one session for that particular one, because it is the final and closeout session, but exciting, very much to look forward to. All right, so I'll talk to you about that towards the end of today's session. But for now, let's get into it. And so this is the agenda of what we are going to be covering today. As I said, the topic of today's webinar is compliance. And so we're going to talk about business compliance. What is business compliance? We're going to talk about the importance of business compliance and why it's so important. What is the reasons behind some of the compliance measures that are in place? And then, of course, we're going to talk about registrations and licenses and what you need, because the end of, or the goal of today's webinar is really to empower you with information so that you are compliant and you don't end up missing out on opportunities. All right, so let's get stuck in. Olivia, are you good to go? Are we good to go?
Yes, ready.
So I think maybe before we kick off, let's open up the floor.
Yeah.
And let's have one or two people just share with us, in your view or in your opinion, what do you believe compliance is? When you hear the word business compliance, what do you think? What goes through your mind? What sort of questions come up in your mind, or what do you think about immediately? So before we get into it, let's open up the floor. Please raise your hand. Anybody want to raise their hand and give us your views? Percy, please unmute yourself and give us your input.
Good morning, everyone. Darren, how you doing, my man?
Good, Percy. Good to have you. Go for it with your input.
All right. Compliance to me is all the relevant documents that you need to have concerning the business that you are running currently. That is my intake with compliance.
Like that one. Let's go to Darius. Darius, you can give us your input.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Compliance is to do with SARS and SIPs, and they are trending now. So, and they're sending some threatening messages, but the update is that they apologized this morning. But that's compliance. There's more to it, but that's a piece that I can share.
Nice one. Thanks, Darius. Thanks, Percy. I knew the words that were going to come up was documents, because everyone always thinks documents. And then I just knew one of the organizations that would come up would be SARS, especially this week when everybody's been receiving those messages. Olivia, what were you going to say?
Yes, I just wanted to add that we also have Mulalo that responded to our question, or providing us with the views where saying, I think about doing the right things for the business, from registration to ensuring that we maintain the registration and licenses. Then she says again, SARS and choosing our jail cellmates for the next 10 years.
Nice one. Our jail cellmates. Nice one. Okay, interesting. So let's get into it, guys. So when we talk business compliance, I think you guys have hit the nail on the head. So business compliance really talks about being compliant, all right? Making sure that you have everything in place in order for you to operate. And so the importance of compliance, so business legal compliance refers to the adherence of a company or organization to the laws, regulations, and guidelines set forth by the government and regulatory bodies in a particular country. Okay, and so there you can see straight away based on that definition, it has got to do with laws, it has got to do with regulations, and then sometimes it's got to do with guidelines in order. So basically, you can almost think of it as a framework within which you operate as a business owner. All right. And then, Olivia, you can talk to us about the regulatory environment.
Right. Thank you so much, Darren. I think it's so important for us as business owners, or when you want to start a business, to be compliant, right? Because one, it ensures that your business is operating within those legal boundaries. And again, you maintain that ethical practices. Here, we're really talking about being trusted and being able to better your chances of getting opportunities. Because as we will be talking, you will see some of the topics that we'll talk about. A lot of companies, they look for people that are compliant. And that is the reason why it's so important for us to be compliant as startups or as businesses that have been running for some time. Again, we are mentioning here that we also contribute to the financial stability as well as the development of our country. As I was looking at this slide, I was actually thinking, if we did not have laws, and knowing that there are a lot of people that are registered within CIPC, how would be able to control the environment? Because everyone wants to get opportunities out there. And we have, as South Africa, as the law of South Africa, there must be a control whereby we're saying, all right, we're getting the opportunities, but at the same time, which are the businesses that are compliant? Because this compliance, it just gives us that opportunity to be one of the businesses that will get market access opportunities. Thanks, Darren.
So the other very important thing about compliance is that it promotes fair competition, right? And so obviously it means if you are operating and nobody knows who you are and what you're doing, you can literally be taking advantage of people. But I think, Olivia, you wanted to elaborate on fair competition for us?
All right. So if we're talking about that fair competition, one is you become part of every businesses. So for example, we're mentioning the importance of leveling in the playing field. You are compliant because, for example, you've got a CK document, you've got the BBBE certificate, you've got your SARS certificate. It does not exclude you from bidding, for example. Let's say you want to apply for a tender, it will not exclude you because you are compliant. You will have that chance to be part of those businesses, whether they are bigger companies or they are small companies. But because of you've got the compliance, you will be part of getting those market access opportunities. Thanks, Darren.
I love how you say that by being compliant, it levels the playing field. That literally means that, all right, you stand a better chance now because you've got the same requirements met as what the next business has. And so as a result, I think, and if we use an example, like for instance, during COVID, if you were the only person who had access to masks and you were the only person who had access to sanitizer, you would then be able to literally control that prices. And as a result, so many people would be able to lose out on possibly having their lives saved, right? And so that is the reason why compliance encourages and promotes fair competition so that more people are able to provide goods and services. And so I know you wanted to dive deeper into it here, Olivia.
Okay, in terms of fair competition, again, we're talking about equal opportunities. So as I mentioned earlier on, and I said, as there are opportunities out there, whether it is in the corporate space or in the government space, but as long as you are compliant, you will get that opportunity. You will have access to the opportunities. So whether you are small or a bigger company, you will definitely get that opportunity. Again, we have something that we call Consumer Protection Act. And that's where it links with this consumer protection. So whether you are providing a product to a company or you are buying that product, but you will be able to understand your rights in terms of the consumer protection. Again, we're talking about transparency. You'll be able to understand how everyone, let's speak about, you are bidding, for example, in the government space, right? You have all that information in terms of what other competitors are bidding in terms of your industry or that product or service that you are providing. Back to you, Darren.
Great. I think very important also to realize is that so when we talk about consumer protection, if there weren't guidelines in place, if there weren't these laws and regulations in place, people would do just anything, all right? But because of these processes and these frameworks in place, now we know, okay, so anybody who is providing medical services needs to comply with this, and this, so that you as a consumer, there is protection in that, all right? Think about if medication wasn't regulated and anybody could just give you anything to take when you've got a headache, all right? You could find literally people dying. And so that is the reason why these laws and these frameworks exist, okay? It's for protection of consumers, but it also helps to really helps the country, as Olivia said, and again, it helps bring in that transparency. So it includes things like licensing and permits. So many businesses are required to obtain licenses or permits to operate legally. So for example, health permits or environmental permits. And again, this depends on the industry that the business is in. But again, by having those in place where licenses and permits are required in order for compliance, again, there is protection in that, and it makes sure that the right people are operating in that space. The next one is taxation. Okay, so because businesses are subject to various taxes, including income tax, sales tax, property tax, and payroll tax. And we know, as we've explained in previous webinars, that the reason why we pay tax, again, is to enable and to allow government to provide services to the country, all right? And so different businesses, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on, have different tax structures, all right? But again, it all ties into compliance. And then maybe you can touch on employment laws, Olivia.
Okay, so talking about employment laws, I'm not sure, before I say anything, I would love to actually give a platform to the participants, just to be able to tell me about any laws that you are familiar with when we talk about people. When we talk about employment, is there anyone that can tell me about any law that you're familiar with, perhaps on the chat, or you can also raise your hand and let us know. Just before I add something there, I add a little bit of meat in terms of employment contract, because I know we've been talking participants, and I do want to give you that opportunity to just say something. So it could be either on the chat or you raise your hand. Anyone?
Let's have you raise your hand. So let's have you raise your hand. Anyone that wants to give us some input, please raise your hand and give us your input there. What comes to mind when you think about employment laws? What are some of the employment laws that you are familiar with? I see Percy is on a roll.
Yes.
You can unmute yourself, Percy. Let's go.
Good morning again. Yes, according to my understanding, the employment law is the contract actually that binds the employer and the employees in terms of regulations.
Nice one. Thank you. I see Murado typing in the chat saying there's basic conditions of employment, and then also OHS. Right, I think that's occupational health and safety. Anyone else want to share any other feedback on what you know about as far as employment laws are concerned?
So it looks like, Darren, we've got a powerful cohort here, because all the laws have been mentioned, even the employment equity. So this is so powerful to see that people or the participants are actually familiar with the laws that we have to abide to in terms of our country. Indeed, I think one that has not been mentioned is skills development. So we also have skills development. We also have what we call COIDA. The importance of actually understanding the employment laws is also great. So if I'm looking at what we have mentioned on our slides, we're actually talking there about the employment contract, which is very important to have, because in our businesses, we have various functions, and one of the important functions is the HR function. And remember, as startups and business owners, it's difficult for us to succeed without employing people. And that is why it's also important to be compliant with the employment laws. So talking about employment contract, we talked about COIDA, we talked about UIF, we talked about skills development, and the list goes on, and occupational health as well. I saw here the workplace safety. We're talking about the occupational health and safety. Take over, Darren.
Great stuff. So again, the reason why most of these laws are in place is for the protection of various stakeholders. Okay, so business legal compliance helps protect the interest of your employees. It helps protect the interest of customers, suppliers, and other stakeholders. Okay, and again, I think so the concept that we need to understand, and the gist of it, is really that there is protection within these boundaries and within these laws. All right, and so I know that a lot of times people think they can get away with not towing the line, but you can only get away for so long. But it will catch up with you, and that's why it's so important that you focus on compliance, because again, there is protection for so many of the various stakeholders. And so let's dive deep into it. So for instance, we know that with employees, we know that labor law, UIF, protects employees. It protects the rights of employees, all right? Simple things like when somebody loses their job, if there was no UIF contributions, that person now cannot go and claim and help them sort of replace an income that they are now without for a period of time. And so again, it just shows how there is protection in that. Then of course, it protects your customers as well, because there's laws, and there's laws in place to protect customer data. All right, we'll talk about a little bit later things like the POPI Act, or the POPIA Act as it is known now. But again, there is protection in those legal frameworks. You want to talk about suppliers and creditors there, Olivia?
Okay, then again, the importance of fair procurement, and also we're talking about the contracting practices, because remember, as we are saying, that there are laws in terms of suppliers, and we're talking about the invoices. Again, there is that protection in terms of the interest of suppliers, because as we're talking about compliance, it's important for all the stakeholders that we deal with to protect their businesses and also to protect their customers. We're also talking about the compliance with supply chain laws, as well as the sustainability of the standards, because we all know when there are any unethical or illegal practices, it's important for us as the businesses to protect ourselves. I just wanted to add again in terms of UIF, because when we talk about those employees, it's important to understand as a company that when we talk about UIF, we're talking about 1% that is being paid by an employee, and also that is being paid by an employer, which makes it 2%. We're also talking about the compensation for occupational injuries and diseases, and that is COIDA. It's also important because it links to that labor law, because what we are doing, we are protecting the company as well as our employees. Thank you.
Yeah. You almost need to think about it as a business owner. If you are not, for instance, paying UIF or deducting UIF for an employee, what happens is morally it now becomes your responsibility to help care or provide for this person's family if anything should happen. And so the reason that these laws are in place is so that when those things happen, there is a way for this person to continue sustaining and getting their income. Right, and so again, so important. Now let's talk a little bit about reputation and trust. Right, and this is very important because Complying with the legal obligations enhances a company's reputation and builds trust amongst customers, investors, and public. There's nothing worse than showing up to a meeting, showing up to try and pitch for work or trying to get work and not having your ducks in a row and not being able to show that you are compliant. All right. So firstly, when people see that you are compliant, it elevates your reputation. You are taken seriously. You are given the respect that you deserve as a business owner. And of course, people then trust you because people can see if you have taken the time to make sure that your business complies with the laws, complies with the regulations, you've done what you need to do, that means they can then trust you with their money. And business is all about money. Right. So if you are expecting people to give you their money, you need to show them, listen, you can trust me because should I fail, there are processes in place so that there is recourse and so that you are able to take action and we can fix the situation. All right. And so that's the reason why sometimes somebody will buy something from somebody on Facebook and they never get their products and then they're like, I'm going to take you to, then they're like, where are you going to take me to? I'm not registered. I'm not a registered business. You don't even know who I am. All you know about me is that I was on Facebook. All right. Again, reputation and trust is so, so important. And then reputation management, let's talk a little bit about that. So being known as a compliant and ethical company can enhance your reputation and attract customers who value responsible business practices. Very, very important. And then, of course, I think Olivia's touched on this significantly already, but yes, market access. If you are compliant, if you have all of your ducks in a row, if you have everything in place, it opens up access to markets, right? Because some markets and industries require specific certifications or compliance measures in order for you to participate. And so failing to meet these can literally limit your market access. Okay. How many of you have gone and they're like, okay, where's your tax clearance? You don't have a tax clearance. Where's your BEE certificate? In the past, that was a requirement for some businesses. And so again, it helps you access those markets, levels the playing field. And then compliance with data protection regulations, such as the POPIA Act, is crucial in protecting customer data and avoiding data breaches that can harm the company's reputation. All right. And so again, you need to have processes in place so that if people are sharing their information with you, you are not sharing that information with everybody else. Okay. I don't know how many of you know I think it was a year or so ago where there was information that was leaked from ITC and it was a big thing, right? Because now people had access to people's information. And so again, compliance with data protection regulations is so, so important.
Wow, Darren, you're actually touching a very important part about market access. I was actually thinking about the time of COVID, and I think really applies consistently to us as small business startups, growing businesses, the importance of being compliant. Because one, that compliant, it can really stops you from getting any opportunity. The minute you are red, and that red color at SARS, it just stops you immediately from getting those opportunities. And that leads to a worst case scenario whereby there is no revenue coming in. You can't pay any supplier. You can't go and get all your goods for you to be able to sell or to be able to provide the services to the client. So this market access, this compliance is actually a very, very big topic. And it's so relevant to startups and people that are preparing to start their own businesses. Thank you.
Absolutely. Also, by being compliant helps build customer trust, okay? Because a good reputation amongst your customers is so, so important. That's how you get brand loyalty. People are loyal to brands that they can trust. And so if you are compliant and you are managing your reputation, what happens is your customers then become loyal to you. Then, of course, there's investor confidence, okay? Investors are more likely to support and invest in companies who are compliant and who have a good reputation. And then, of course, crisis management. This is a very important one because a good reputation provides that buffer during times of crisis. If you mess up, as we all do, everybody makes mistakes, everybody slips up. But if you've managed your reputation, if you have a track record of good compliance, if you have a track record of good service delivery, people are most likely to trust you and give you an opportunity to fix up where you've made a mistake, right? And so that's so, so important. And then, of course, it gives you a competitive advantage, because a strong reputation can give a company a competitive advantage in the market. Think about it. People, if you walk in and you see somebody that you know, like, and trust, a business that you know, like, and trust, you will most likely choose them over somebody who doesn't have a good reputation. All right. And so very, very important that you manage your reputation as a brand, as a business owner, because it can be so, so important. All right.
We also have Darren, I would say, I think it's Mr. Williams. Apologies if perhaps I'm pronouncing incorrect. He also mentioned there that it's important to have good compliance in place and also brand building. It has to be consistent. Thank you so much, Mr. Williams.
Nice one. Thank you. Do you want to take away and talk about social responsibility, Olivia?
Okay, so when we talk about social responsibility, it's one of the major things for compliance. We're saying that is one of the advantages. So we say talking about the social responsibility as well as the ethical standards. Because in this way, firstly, we respect the human rights, we promote that diversity, as well as including all, I would say everyone. And again, supporting those communities in which they operate. So as I'm saying, it's important because when we talk about that compliance, we're talking about being part of social responsibility. And we all know that in our businesses, the importance of being compliant is the major thing. So it's important for that social responsibility, as well as in terms of the government, for the government to be able to build those roads, to be able to build those schools, everything that we are looking for. Because when we are paying that tax, for example, just to pick up one, when we're paying that tax, whether it's coming from employees or it's coming from business owners, that tax will be able to help social responsibilities in our communities. Thank you so much.
I love that. Let's pause for a moment and see if there are any questions or comments. We're going to open it up. Is there anybody who would like to add or who would like to ask a question on anything we've chatted about before we change gears? All right, anybody, please feel free to raise your hand or type it in the chat. I'd love to get some input from some of you about anything that we've just touched on. Muraro, you can go for it. Then we'll come to Wendy.
Good morning. I just wanted to find out, when it comes to social responsibility, should that be out of own will or expectations, where just because I'm running a business, then every structure within the community, sending letters, reaching out, wanting money, though I'm still just starting and not affording to be giving out money? Is that a norm that is expected because you run a business? Now you should be contributing to community initiatives.
I think that's a great question. I think what we're touching on here is, or to answer your question this way, naturally, as you grow, you might have the desire to give back to the community, and you might have a desire to invest a little bit more in things like social responsibility or CSI, initiatives. But right now, we're really talking about adhering to social and ethical standards. And so, for instance, you need to operate within the framework and the laws that govern the business or the industry that you're in, as well as the community. So, for instance, you cannot just go and open up a shop in a road that hasn't been zoned for you to do that. And now you've got all of these customers and you've got trucks delivering, coal to your backyard, and you are selling coal from your yard to Eskom. Okay, so that's what it's talking about, adhering to the social and the ethical standards in order for you to operate. For example, there are noise levels that you need to, for instance, comply with in certain areas. All of those are frameworks that are in place for you to understand what are the laws and regulations that govern you running your business within those areas.
To add on what you have said, I just wanted to go back to your question, ma'am, Wendy. One is, as a business owner, it takes us back to budgeting. And I saw that budgeting had been covered in one of the webinars. So everything that we do, it's so important for us to understand the budget that we have. So it's not a must to actually go and support one of the corporate social investment. But as Darren mentioned, that as you grow, you might be interested to support one of those people. However, everything that we do, it actually takes us back to the budget, whereby we say, do we actually have that money to actually support? Because remember, it goes back again to your strategy. What was your plan for 2024? Because if we're looking at that plan, then we will be able to start saying, you know what, due to the fact that we had a very good year, we've got that money in our account and we would love to support one of our communities or give back to one of our communities. Then you will be able to do that based on the budget and the strategy or the direction where the organization or company is going to. Thanks, Darren.
Nice one. Thank you. Wendy, let's go to you. You can unmute yourself and give us your question or comment.
Okay, good day, everyone. On my side, I wanted to find out, because remember that with the business plans and the pitch, we have to do it ourselves. We have to be the one doing it. So with the contracts and also getting the certificate, the tax clearance certificate, do we go to SARS, or when we are registered with the CIPC, you already have the tax clearance?
Cool. We're going to keep that question. We're going to keep that question for our guest speaker who's going to be joining us shortly. Okay. So hold on to that question, Wendy. It will definitely be addressed. Let's move on and change gears now to the legal stuff. Okay. You'll see there we have Advocate Olivia going to talk us through the legal compliance side of things. our new public protector, Olivia.
Right. Thank you so much, Darren. All right. I just wanted to find out from our participants, anyone that has, or you know someone that was involved or went through being non-compliant, and perhaps you know a story about that person, because I've been there and I would love to share a story about being non-compliant, or we focusing more on fines, the penalties, the legal disputes, the reputational damage. Do you perhaps know someone that you can share a story with us? Is there anyone that knows anything? Right? Were you still thinking? I've been there. So I've been there. Okay, no problem, Mulalo. Just wanted to give an example about my business. You know, most when you're starting a business, the main focus is more about market access, and you're like, I want to make money. There must be money in the business. And you tend to forget about that compliance. So we went through a process of being VAT registered. And remember, when you are VAT registered, there will be that 15%, right, that you are charging your customers. That money, number one, it's not yours. So with immediate effect, as it comes in, we were supposed to actually take that money and keep it separately into the bank account, whether we're saving it somewhere, because every 2 months, we have to pay back that money to SARS. So it happened that we were not aware of that, and the VAT was not paid, and we relied more than 100% to the accountant, whereas the owner of the business is the one that needs to be accountable. The accountant came back to say, it's your responsibility, not my responsibility, to actually look at the compliance. So it's so important, ladies and gentlemen, because you don't want to be in that space whereby there is a challenge with SARS, right? So it's just so important for us to be compliant, to be consistent, or to be able to maintain that compliance all the time. Same applies if we make an example with CIPC. CIPC, you get registered. However, on a yearly basis, you need to ensure that that name is kept relevant in terms of paying the 150 that needs to be paid so that your name is still relevant. Otherwise, by the time you get you go for market access opportunity or you bid, they might actually say, you know what, we are disqualifying you because your company is in the process of deregistration. So let us be aware of the fines and the penalties, that takes place. And that is why compliance is important. Again, when you are non-compliant, it gets to that reputational damage, because the minute you get to that database and the companies, they cannot use your business. Corporate companies, government companies, they cannot use your business. Then there is a lot of it's difficult for you to go back to that market. It's difficult for you to bounce back and be able to get those opportunities and your business being able to succeed. Thank you.
There's a question in the comments, Olivia, asking, did you get arrested?
It was close. It was close because one, we ignored the vet. I think it was almost 6 months. So we received this email. After we received the email, then I ran, as usual, to the accountant. And then the accountant was saying, it's your responsibility. You need to take steps. And that fear. So firstly, there was a huge fear on my side. I was scared to go to SARS and go and face SARS, but I ended up going there because there was no other way. I had to go and face the consequences. So, I was not arrested, but I was definitely there. I had to go there, take that opportunity to go there and speak to them and make arrangements. So all in all, don't be scared of SARS should you make that mistake, because that was a lesson that I took for myself, that yes, we make these mistakes, but don't be scared of SARS should you get to that point. However, this webinar is so powerful because it's giving us the awareness around compliance and the important things that we have to do. Thank you.
Right. So then we obviously need to talk a little bit about business registrations, all right? So for those who don't know yet, but where you register your business is with CIPC. Okay, so CIPC registers companies and cooperatives. Now, it's not necessary for all businesses to formalize by registering with CIPC. For some businesses, such as informal businesses or sole proprietors, there may not be sufficient benefits, but there is a wide range of opportunities from being compliant. So for instance, if you are just selling sweets at the school through the fence, all right, those are informal businesses and don't necessarily have to register. But again, as Olivia says, it limits what you are able to do, how far you are able to take this business. And most times it's in your best interest to at least register your business, especially if you are wanting to do business with other businesses and you want to build that reputational management and that reputational trust that we spoke about earlier on. Now, there are different types of entities, and I know you want to unpack this for us, Olivia.
Yes, thank you so much, Darren. So one, I'm going to put the private companies, personal liability companies, public companies, and the state-owned companies. All these companies are the profit companies because we're saying they come in different forms. And again, you register with CIPC. One thing that I would like to let you know is that they have their advantages and they also have their disadvantages, right? So it is so important for us as entrepreneurs to understand what are the advantages and the disadvantages of each entity. For example, I will make just one example with a sole proprietorship. That sole proprietorship, you are one owner. You make decisions on your own, right? But all the liabilities of this company, they belong to you. Anything that goes wrong, anything that goes right, it all depends on you. And let me refer back to what we were talking about earlier on, about penalties. The minute you are in that situation of penalty, there is a good chance that they would actually look at let's say the car that you bought on your own, the house that you bought on your own, because at the end of the day, you have to pay back the money. You know, if you're owing SARS, you have to pay back the money. So it is so important for us to understand, do I actually want to register as a private company, which we call it PTY Ltd? You know, do I want to actually go for a non-profit company, which I will talk about just now? But as I'm talking to you, the importance of understanding the difference or the advantages and disadvantages of registering as a private company, a personal liability company, a public company. When we talk about the state-owned companies, we normally talk about companies like the ESCOM, you know, because all of those, there is government involved. Although they are working with the communities and supporting us as the entrepreneurs or giving us opportunities, but they are also working very closely with the state-owned companies. Then I'm going to talk about the non-profit companies. So we're talking about the limited guarantee of Section 21. And again, we're saying that they are incorporated to public benefit purpose because they are non-profit organization. They support a lot of communities. And again, there is a minimum of 3 people that are called incorporators that they have to complete and sign what we call a memorandum of incorporation. Then, as I mentioned earlier on, there must be a minimum of at least 3 directors. Thank you so much.
Great. Okay, so important to note that the legal requirements for starting a business in South Africa may change over time and may depend on specific circumstances for your business. All right, and so as much as you are compliant, you need to keep abreast with what's happening, okay? So for instance, a couple of years ago, you could register what they used to call a closed corporation or a CC, and things have changed. You can no longer register that. You need to either register as a sole proprietor or a PTY, okay? So as much as you start out and you get yourself compliant, make sure that you are always up to date with what is happening and that you are constantly up to date with the most recent requirements for you to remain compliant. All right, so that's very, very important. Then it's recommended that you seek professional legal advice to ensure that your compliance is applicable to the laws and the regulations. Very, very important. So at some point, you're going to have to start getting yourself an accountant or a bookkeeper, so that you have people that are able to do that for you and help you while you take care of business. All right. Now, Olivia, you're going to talk to us just about some of the various compliance components that exist. And so I'm going to hand over to you for this section.
Right. Thanks, Darren. Number one, I think this is so powerful, participants, for actually having all these websites in terms of registering. So I'm going to start from CIPC. I will talk about ISO certification at the end. One is CIPC, as we all know, any business that you would like to register on CIPC. It is you can actually, one, do it on your own, which is online. You can click on that website and then you will be able to register. One thing that I wanted to place or mention is that CIPC, we're talking about SARS, we're talking about home affairs where there is ID involved. They work together. So when you get into that e-services platform, you will see there, including Department of Labor, they are actually in one space. And I think to make things easier for us as entrepreneurs or as startups. So if you go to CIPC, you will be able to register your business, number one. Number two, it is actually 195. I'm talking under correction here. It might have increased by now because with laws, they changes all the time. So it has been 195, but I know if you're going to go to an accountant or you go to someone else that has the ability to actually register, they might actually, this might actually cost you more. Some they would say 400 rands, some they would say 450. However, if you go directly to CIPC, you will be able to pay the 195 so that your business is open and it is compliant. Then, as I have mentioned, SARS is free of charge. You have the ability to register that online with immediate effect. So important to get that certificate, or what we call a tax PIN these days. It's a certificate that you normally send together with all your compliance to each client that is interested or showing interest to using your services. And again, as I'm saying, that tax PIN is what the companies will use when they're showing interest. They will first check you at SARS. Are you in good standing? And as I mentioned earlier on, there's what we call the green side and red side. We all know most with robots. The minute you are on green, we're all good. But the minute you are on red, then you need to take the step with immediate effect, right? So it's so important as well to maintain that compliance. Very important to keep on checking, on the system. Am I still on the green side? Am I still ready to get the opportunities? Because what normally happens, even if you apply, you will do your whole tender process, or you will go and send your information. The first thing the clients do is to check if you are compliant. And with immediate effect, if you are not compliant, they remove you immediately. You are being disqualified with immediate effect, right? BE certificate, very important to have. One, it gives us the opportunity, or better, the opportunity, the chances of getting the opportunities, because now we understand that you are the level 1, you are the level 4, what level you are. But it really gives you that opportunity to play with other big guns or big companies in the space. And again, there are points that are related to BEE certificate. So a lot of companies, you would see if you are compliant, there would be a lot of companies that would like to partner with you, that would like to work with you, so that they can lift up their BEE certificate. So important, ladies and gentlemen, to be compliant once again. As I'm mentioning to you now, I am involved in one of the programs that is called Flame. You will see when you get into Assessor Foundation. And one of the participants there has partnered with a big construction company in the Western Cape. Why? Because she is BEE and she is compliant in everything that is required in the construction industry. Again, we speak about CSD, which is Customer Supplier Database. This actually gives each entrepreneur an opportunity to work with government as well as with corporates. So it's so important to get what we call that MAAA number. It's also, if you click on that website, you will get direction in terms of registering in that space. And you will see, as you're applying for opportunities into the government space, they will always ask your CSD registration. It is being updated on a yearly basis because there is what we call declaration of interest in terms of some of the applications that are in there. And also there are some forms that you have to update on a yearly basis. Why that update? It's required. It's because they do not know whether you're still existing or not existing. And that is why you have to declare on a yearly basis. Then we talk about COIDA. We spoke about COIDA in a brief sense because we're saying one, it speaks about when the employees, they are involved in an accident. One thing that is important about COIDA, it's relevant to all the industries. It's not only construction companies. It includes all the services, businesses, whether you have a product or you have a service. And it's important for you to actually protect your business, because should one of your employees get into an incident or accident, you and that employee has to go home or go to hospital, while the employee is at home, that person would be able to go to the Department of Labor and be able to claim for COIDA while that person is unable to work within your organization. Again, we're coming back to UIF. There is a website. UIF, as we said, it applies whether the person is going for maternity leave. It applies whether the person is unemployed, because you know when the business is closed, the people, you can assist them in terms of being able to go and claim while they are looking for employment. As I mentioned, everything actually is in one place. If you get into registering your business, registering at SARS, you will be able to be linked to the UIF. So if we're looking at this list, UIF and COIDA, you would definitely register within the Department of Labor. But if we talk about that, we're talking about anything that is related to SARS. Now we are talking about SARS themselves. Then we're also talking about payee. This is the tax that is being deducted. But I would love to hear from people if they do understand what payee is. If you could please let us know on the line, through messages, and let us know if you understand what payee is. I know some of you might be working while you are studying, or as you are preparing for your future. Do you perhaps know what payee is? And let us know. So skills development, that speaks to when you are empowering your employees within the workspace. Then I'm going to talk about ISO certification. I'm not sure, Darren, whether there's anything below skills development before I speak about ISO.
There isn't.
Okay.
Muraro
right,
said in the chat, PAYE is pay as you earn.
Great. That is wonderful. And I'm glad that you understand that is one of the taxes that are being deducted from your salary when you are reaching a threshold. There is a certain threshold from SARS side, whereby when you reach that threshold, there will be a tax that is being deducted. It varies according to the salary that you are earning. The higher you go, the higher it goes up, right? Then let's talk about ISO certification. ISO certification, it's about standards. It's about processes. And it's so important for us to have those standards and processes in our organizations. As we mentioned earlier on, when an organization has got processes in place, it gives you better chances of getting market access opportunities. This focuses on various functions of the business. One, it will look at your human resources, it will look at your distribution, it will look at your manufacturing process, it will look at all the processes, of course, including the finance, which is the main important one in our businesses, right? So the importance of having all those processes in place, then it will give you that certification. And I'm telling you right now, when you produce those, or you have the ability to showcase that you have processes in place, a lot of companies, they trust your organization and they will indeed show interest in working together with you. Above everything, in these days, I know that government sector is actually one of the requirements these days. You need to be ISO certified in order for you to work with government as well. It might be in certain industries that you need to be ISO certified, but for me, I would suggest that you put your processes in place so that you can, one, trust it, and also two, to have access to markets so that your business can grow and become successful. Thank you so much, Darren.
Beautifully covered there. Thank you so much, Olivia. All right, and so on that note, we're going to put up the quiz or the poll for today. So team, you can just launch the poll. There are 6 questions, I think, or 7. Let's get them up. And then we're going to give it a minute or so. 7 questions. All right, it's up on your screen right now. Remember to answer all of the questions. Scroll all the way down to the bottom, and then it will allow you to submit. Once you've done that, please type in the chat, done, so that we know and we can just track how many people have completed it. I'm going to keep it open for about a minute or so. After we've all completed the quiz, we are going to move to the segment with our guest speaker. So I'll introduce him shortly. I know that he is in the room. And on that note, we're going to move over to the next segment of our session today. It's my privilege now to welcome Honorable Member of Parliament. I'm joking. Our special guest on today's webinar, his name is Samkele Mbangula, and he is currently the founder and owner of Excelso. He was born in the Eastern Cape in a small town where he did his primary schooling and then went to Johannesburg and completed high school where he studied commerce subjects. And his entrepreneurial journey started when he was only 6 years old. Can you believe it? When he started his first business. I'm interested to hear about that. He then went on to study at University of Johannesburg, where he studied commerce, business management, business administration, and he majored with finance subjects and business management. In 2009, he started consulting while working, and in 2014, Samkele then started the business and consulting full-time, helping small, medium, and micro enterprises with consulting services, or with starting, managing a business, being compliant as a business, and helping put systems in place that will help their businesses grow. Samkele, sorry, I keep saying your name wrong. I'm so sorry. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the webinar today. Please tell us, what was that first business you started at the age of 6 years old?
Oh, hi everyone. Yeah, my first business, man, I was just selling snacks at my primary school.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was my first business. That's when I sort of started to enshrine that entrepreneurial spirit in myself when I was still in primary school. That was for my pocket money, of course.
Samkele, we're going to get into the discussion around compliance, because we know that's what you focus on now as a consultant, helping small businesses. So can you describe for us what steps one needs to take to ensure that one's business is compliant?
Yes. Thank you for that question, Darren, and everyone else that has joined the meeting. I mean, having worked with micro and small businesses from all sort of sectors and industries, what I've gathered over the years is that the first practical step for any business is to first understand the strategic objectives in terms of what industry the organization operates in, and then where it needs to go. And then once you are able to establish that, then you are able to develop and know that which compliance requirements that you need to adhere to, because your industry and the type of business that you do is the first step that sort of determines the type of compliance requirements that you are going to adhere to. For example, if you are in the food industry, there's a lot of compliance insofar as health and safety, food safety, and the environment that you are going to operate in. I think that's the first and most important thing. That's the foundation. And then the second step is to sort of understand, once you have established what you need to comply with as the first step. The second step is to know those compliance requirements. When do you need to submit any documentation that needs to be checked to keep your compliance up to date, to know when you need to submit, whether is it monthly, biannually, or annually. Because, for example, if you look at SARS, if a company is registered for VAT, then we would need to know your VAT period. Is it a 1 month VAT period or 2 month VAT period, based on how the VAT registration was done when we were registering at SARS. If If the company has pay as you earn, for example, then you would need to know by that every month by the 7th NDYF you need to have submitted and paid those returns over to the relevant body or to the relevant regulatory organization. And then also the third step I would say is to know also is why is that you need to comply to those things, to those requirements insofar as compliance. Complying only is not enough. You need to know why are you complying to those things, so that then you can be able to set controls and measures in place to mitigate any shortfalls and be able to plan. Because, for example, if an organization is a taxpayer, so you need to be able to plan for those things in advance. So I would say those are the practical steps that any small or medium businesses would need to take in order to make sure that the business is compliant. I don't know if I answered that correctly, Darren, but
yes, that was
any comment
very good.
I can be able to.
I think this is good, and you've given us some practical examples as well. Now, but let's go back just a little bit and then talk about what are the legal requirements for actually starting. So now you've decided what industry you want to be in. What are the legal requirements to start your business?
Okay, in terms of starting, I think you have to sort of establish as to when you're starting the business, there are requirements that you would need when you start, and then there are compliance requirements that you need when to grow. But to start, the basic things that any business upon registration needs, I mean, immediately, if you start or register a company, the first thing that you automatically get from CIPC, it's a tax number for the business. You get allocated, any business gets allocated the tax number immediately. It's not like I think 3-4 years before you used to go, you had to go to SARS to get the tax number. Now it gets automatically allocated to the company, right? And then when you register the company, there's a sort of like a memo that gets attached to the CIPC document, where they tell you practically that because now you have registered a company, you, as a director of that company, there are certain behaviors, moral, ethical, and responsibility that you've got upon the business. One of them is filing the annual duty, the annual returns of the company. That is, if every year on the anniversary of the company, there needs to be return that needs to be filed, whereby you declare to CIPC the turnover, annual turnover for that 12-month period, and then you pay the fees upon that. And then if that new company has also employees, then we'd have to register with the unemployment insurance fund for employees that are, of course, with below the tax threshold, which I think this year is about 7,840. You can register them at Department of Labor. And then if it's above that, you can register PA, pay as you earn, with SARS, and that's for employees that are above the or on the threshold, tax threshold.
I like how you said that they are. Sorry, keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yes. No, and then I was saying, and then in certain industries where the I would say there is not much of compliance requirements in terms of just starting or operating in that industry, like the construction industry development board. It's where you can immediately go and grade your company for a grade 1 certification in construction, and also in cleaning services, for example. There you can register with National Contractors Cleaners Association. That is, of course, when you have an employee, then you register there, and those do not necessarily need that you've got a certain number of employees. It's things that any entry, small or macro business can do at the very start.
I like how you've broken it down into there's compliance that is required when you start, and then there's compliance that is required when you grow. And I think that really drives the message home that it's something that is ongoing. It's not good enough to just do it once and forget about it. It's something that you need to keep up with all the time. Now, earlier on, you mentioned these different types of compliances that business owners should know about. What are some of those different types? And I know you've mentioned a couple already, but are there any others that you want to touch on that business owners should be aware of in terms of the types of compliances?
Yes, I actually like to broke them down into two and say maybe there's this statutory compliance requirements, and then you would have your industry compliance requirements that every entrepreneur would need to look out for. And then your statutory, it's basically your SARS, UIF, compensation funds, and those actually are around the administration of the company on its own. And then you've got also your industry compliance requirements, which I think those are the ones that are linked to market access, right, for the company to grow and be able to access opportunities within that industries. And those also need to be sort of managed very well, and every entrepreneur needs to know how they operate, how they fit into the business, when they need to be submitted, and why they need to submit it at the certain point in time. Because as I've said, as the business grows, they become more and more rigid, and they need also to be managed continuously.
That's really good. Let's talk a little bit about. So I wanted to see a question here. Okay, so there's a question from Muraro saying, what message do you have for entrepreneurs who got so many SMSs from SARS, and for those where companies are not even operating?
Okay, can you repeat the question again, Darren?
Yes. So she was asking, what message do you have for entrepreneurs who got so many SMSs from SARS? So I know this week and in the last couple of days, a lot of people have been receiving messages from SARS.
Oh, yes, yes.
And then she's also asking, and those companies that were not even operating that received messages like these?
Yes, I saw that. I saw that message actually. Yes, on that message, I think first and foremost, that message was actually sent to everybody that is a public officer of a company. When I say public officer, sometimes you could be 3 directors in the company, then you find out only one of them was chosen to be the public officer, meaning the representative of the company to SARS. So they got those messages. And then to expand also on that question, remember when you register a company, the directors are they steering the ship. They are the ones that are steering the ship, the company. So that means then they have a legal obligation to make sure that the ship is steered in the right direction. So meaning that the directors need to, as the Company Act says, need to act in the utmost good faith insofar as the company. That means directors needed to be aware that there are returns that need to be submitted to SARS, and emphasizing that whether the company is trading or not, the directors or entrepreneurs need to make sure that they declare to SARS that the company for the financial year 2023 was dormant, was not trading. They need to declare that to SARS at that period of submission, within the period stipulated for submission, because SARS may not necessarily know what's happening in the organization. You as the entrepreneur or director, it's your responsibility to declare to SARS and file what is called a zero return to say that the company is not trading. Because when you file a zero return, on the return, it will then expand and ask you a question as to why there's a zero return. Then there's a line item that you can say, no, the company was dormant, was actually not trading. You see, so I also find that people also, when the company is not trading, instead of going to declare and say it's not trading, they take the option of just not doing anything. You see, and now SARS is also starting to impose what is called administrative penalties for non-submission of returns only, even if the company was not trading, because you were supposed then to declare to SARS that the company is not trading, therefore I'm submitting what is called a zero return.
Got you. We're gonna open up the floor and get some questions from the participants on the meeting today. Molokhadi, you can unmute yourself and ask your question for Samkelo.
Oh, Molokhadi, yes.
Hello, everyone. My question is that I registered with SARS, and then when I go to online, like SARS online portal, so before the business, I registered my personal, and then I opened the online SARS with my personal. So now I want to add the one for my business. So I managed to add it, but when I'm supposed to go to it and then do some returns, some filing, so it doesn't allow me. It tells me that it needs an accountant or something. So I was asking is there anyhow I can do those myself without involving an accountant or something online?
Thank you for your question. Did you get the question, Samkelo?
No, Darren, I was actually gonna try and ask you also to just rephrase it for me. I didn't get the question.
Sure. So Molokhadi's question is, are you able to submit your returns yourself without having to get an accountant or a tax practitioner to do so? She's registered her own profile, but it says it requires an accountant to do it. So is there a way that she can do it herself?
To answer the question, I was actually saying that SARS is working very, very hard to try and make the return submission process actually very easy for everyone. Because if you look at what they've also done in the past 2 years, they've made an e-filing profile where you can, as a person, as an individual, link your company within one login details. So that means you can be able to submit your own SARS return without using a tax practitioner or accountant, because they've even have a YouTube channel where they post videos on how you can submit your returns. But in also saying that, it was also advisable to seek some sort of advice before you submit, especially if the company is trading. Because there's some questions upon the filing of the return that are technical questions that they would ask you, and then sometimes if you don't get them right, then they can get you into some sort of trouble. So if the company is not trading, it's very easy. You can actually do it yourself online.
Great. Thank you, Samkelo. Are there any other questions? Anyone want to raise a hand and ask a question or type it in the chat? I do see a question here saying, thank you, Samkelo, for sharing your knowledge. My question is, do I need to register for VAT as a service providing company or as a service provider?
I would say yes, you do need to register for VAT, but how VAT works is that there's a compulsory threshold, and then there's a voluntary threshold. Voluntary means any company that has an annual turnover of 1 to 999,000. You can register for VAT voluntarily. But in that threshold, if you're going to register voluntarily, you would then need to prove to SARS that you're making at least 50,000 in turnover of sales per annum. And then once you make $1 million or above, even if you're a service provider, you're not a manufacturer or retailer, then you can register for VAT. It then becomes compulsory to register for VAT. And then in certain industries, SARS may exclude them from registering for VAT, especially when it comes to services. For example, labor brokers, people that are independent contractors, they SARS at their own discretion may exclude them for registering for VAT. So that's how actually VAT works. So there's a voluntarily and then there's a compulsory one, but it is actually opened because also VAT is also one of the enablers that sort of opens the market for a lot of small and medium companies, because if you wanna go into the supplier databases of major companies, they would want you to have VAT, to be a VAT vendor.
Okay. Samkelo, we are almost out of time, so I'm going to jump straight to the final question, which is just what advice can you give to small business owners on the call today regarding compliance, and particularly related to contracts? And maybe in that answer, you can also include where are places where ordinary business owners can go to get these kind of assistance, or this kind of assistance.
Okay. Oh yes. No, I would like to encourage every small business owner or entrepreneur to actually view compliance as an advantage. Instead of just a tick box to say I've got a document, I've got a tax pin, I'm registered with COIRA, I'm registered for this, but to start and viewing the compliance requirements as an advantage, because they can open opportunities, and they can also save costs for businesses if you are able to plan and anticipate what you need to comply with. Because if you manage your compliance very well, then you don't need to face penalties for late submission or non-submission of those returns. And because we also just spoke about VAT, if you are VAT registered, you can actually take advantage of the cash flow that you collect, the VAT that you collect. Remember, when you collect VAT, that 15% before calculations are made by your accountant remains sort of legally money that's supposed to go to SARS. So if you've got that money at your disposal for 30 days, remember that the VAT that you collect for 2 months, let's say now we in October, right? If you collected VAT for September and October, that VAT is only due to SARS at the end of November. So you've got the government's money that you can use wisely to actually make more money from it. You've got it at your disposal for 30 days. So in saying that, if proper planning insofar as tax and other requirements are done in advance, those are things that can actually create an advantage for the company and also cut some of the costs for the business. And then also to expand and say how people can get information. I think that the SARS website, it's also very, very informative in terms of the compliance requirements. For example, payee, when it's due and when it must be submitted, and it also expands and insofar as educating as to what is payee, why does a company need to withhold their employees' tax and pay it over to SARS. Also on customs, there's educational information that people can also access there. And then also, if you do have an accountant or a bookkeeper that you work with, I think that's also a source of an asset in terms of compliance that you can utilize and ask questions and so that you can plan. Because remember, the sole direction of the company is from the entrepreneur. Accountants and bookkeepers, if you're outsourcing, they are only there to execute what you mandate to them. So it is important that you also use them as an asset and insofar as understanding your business in terms of compliance. Because once you understand, it's only then that you can take advantage of of the opportunities that compliance can offer a business.
Samkelo, thank you so much. I think you've shared a wealth of information with us today. I know that we could keep you on all the time. I see there's lots of questions about that, but that was not the purpose of today's thing, to dive so deep into the tax types. If people want to connect with you, where can they follow you on Instagram? Maybe you can quickly share some details for anyone that might need some of your services.
Oh, okay. No, if anyone wants to contact me, please feel free. I'm available. We do have a very busy WhatsApp business line on 08137394446. But otherwise, I'm also on email. My email address is consult@mswelanga.co.za. I'll repeat, it's consult@mswelanga.co.za.
Samkelo, thank you so much, and thank you again for joining us. If I can ask you to type that details in the chat, it will just help for anybody who wants to maybe get it there. But thank you, we appreciate it, and thank you so much for your time.
I will do so. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
That's Samkelo, who's been our guest speaker today. So guys, that's it. We're gonna move on to, as we wrap up, we just want to do a temperature check again. And so I mentioned to you guys earlier on that today is our final content webinar before we get into the final closing event, which is happening on the 17th of November. But I just want to do a temperature check. And so if you can type in the chat, let's just have a couple of you please type in the chat and let us know what you've thought about this program, how you've experienced the program over the last 8 webinars, what's changed in your business, anything that you would like to share now that we are at the end, basically almost at the end of this program. I'm going to give it a minute for you to type in the chat, to type your feedback, and then I'm going to give the opportunity to just 2 people to unmute yourself. So raise your hand, unmute yourself, and we just like to get your feedback in terms of what you've thought of the program. How has the program helped you? What have you learned? How has the program benefited you in your business? So 2 people can share by raising your hand. We'll get you to unmute yourself. Let's start with Wendy.
Hi again, everybody. So for me, the webinar has done me gave me consistency. Number one, I just want to say I'm thankful for the push and for the consistency to say exactly why am I waking up. So it gave me that thing to say I have a baby to take her off, which is my business, and also in the financial with my finances. It has helped a lot because before we were not even bothering ourselves to keep documents or to keep slips. So now we are able to keep the receipts. We are able to put them there and say we calculate and be able to see how much we have made. And a lot has happened, and I was able to register the business as well, because the business was not registered. So with the boot camp, I've learned a lot, and I've learned, most importantly, is that to be consistent for your business, and you have to show up. And what you must know is that there's no one else that is going to do it besides you. So when it comes to productivity, you have to be 100%. When it comes to marketing as well, it has shown that marketing is really important. You have to market yourself. If you don't market your business, then there's no one who's gonna do it for you, and it's not gonna work. Because with marketing, there's a lot, and I've learned that one of the marketings that you must make sure that you push on is content marketing. So I'm really grateful for the bootcamp. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you for sharing your comment. I'm going to read 1 or 2 and then we'll come to Molokadi. Rosina saying, I've learned so much from this program. I thought I knew I'm a better entrepreneur and I can grow my business to the next level. Brittany saying, before this program, I was not aware about the BMC and a lot of things, for example, my strengths and weaknesses. Rachel saying, the webinar has really given me so much insight on how to run my business, more especially on keeping up with costs and expenses. Also, I've been consistent with my budgeting and checking the slips. I'm thankful for the opportunity. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Muraro saying the program was well presented and well spread, not too much. Thank you for that. Somebody else saying, can we do it again? Pearl says, can we redo it again? It was so informative. Thank you, Pearl. Molokadi, you can unmute yourself and let's hear your comment.
Hello again. So I just want to thank you for this wonderful a session, because the first thing is that most of the webinars, when you attend them, it's like you attend while you're busy watching a time. But on this one, even if it was 2 hours, because of how you present, the way you do things, so it was more interesting, and then you were more. We become more eager to listen to come to the next session. Like, we can't wait for the next session because of how the presentation is well prepared. So for that, I'll give you 102% of that. So all of your presentations, like they were well prepared, and then it was excellent. And then secondly, on my side, I just want to thank you for the coaches that were organized for us. So my coach was Brian. So he was very excellent. Because of him, I was able to do my pricing well, because I always had a challenge. Mostly when someone wants a product from me, I will always underquote and then realize later that I did an underquote. But because of how he explained to me on how to do a pricing, so I managed to change all my pricing, and now like with my business is growing well. And then one of the other things is that I was afraid to put a high pricing on my product, but he made me realize because on my business I do jewelry. So there are some few things that he knew about it. So when he looked at my product, he was able to tell me about the value of the things that I do. So, and also on my side, so that's how I started to look at what I'm doing. So I started to value what I'm doing, and because of that, so my business was able to grow. And then now I'm no longer scared of putting a price, because now I put a price knowing that what I put in is more valuable than to just put a cheap price. Yeah. So
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Molokadi. That was such beautiful feedback. We really appreciate it. And well done for staying consistent in the program and for applying what you've learned, for showing up and for taking advantage of the coaching. Here's a beautiful comment in the chat by Percy saying, I moved from a profit margin of about 10,000 Rand a month to 40,000 Rand a month. Well done, Percy. That's amazing. All right, lots of comments still in the chat. We'll keep looking at them. But for now, guys, I want to talk about the pitching that is happening. All right. And so obviously you guys will be getting some information about it, but I just want to make sure that we all are aware of how it is going to work. Now, remember, our next event is going to be the final closeout event, and this is where pitching is going to be taking place. All right, so I just want to quickly talk to you a little bit about how it's going to happen. Okay, so in order to qualify for pitching, it's based on criteria that we've been tracking from the start of the program. Things like your attendance, your engagement, your homework, your coaching sessions, all right? And then qualifying participants will be notified about the pitching by email. So eViwe will email you if you have qualified to be able to pitch for the prizes in the final webinar. Then you are to submit a video to eViwe by no later than the 10th of November. Okay, so you're going to do a 2 to 3 minute video no later than by the 10th of November. Adjudication will be done independently, and the top 10 will be selected to be showcased on the 17th. So on the 17th, that's when those pitching videos are going to be aired, and you'll be able to then, we all will see it. What will then happen is, it will not be a live pitch. The total time per participant is going to be 3 minutes video and 2 minutes to clarify any questions from the judges. So there's going to be independent judges who are going to be on the webinar. And then the winning pitches are going to be selected and announced on the same day, which is the 17th of November. Okay, so please dress up nice. I think we should all let's all dress up like it's a graduation. I think it's going to be a great closing event. I want to give you guys some tips. It's on the screen. I want to just talk through it to give you some tips regarding your pitches. And then I want to play you an example of what your pitch video could look like. Now, it doesn't have to be, it's just so that you have an idea. Okay, so how do you prepare for your video recording? We will edit the videos after recording it, so you don't have to get things perfect in one go. There are some tips for looking and sounding good though. All right, so the first one is lighting. Okay, have light behind the screen to make sure that you are well lit and avoid downlights or backlights. Okay, so for instance, in the room that you are in, make sure the light is coming from the front. If you have a window behind you like I do there, try and make sure that that light is not shining from directly behind you onto your screen or your camera, because then you're going to look dark. Okay, then angles. Recording landscape, so make sure you are doing landscape. If you're using your phone, that's landscape, not this way. All right, so make sure that you use landscape mode and ensure that the camera is not angled upwards. No one wants to see your nostrils and your chin, so don't, you know how our parents, when they send a video call, they send us like this. Okay, make sure that you're putting the camera in a good position. Make sure your body language looks, so look at the camera, not yourself on screen. Make your face expressive and don't forget to smile. All right, very important. Smile, feel comfortable, look good. And then sound, please choose a more enclosed setting. So make sure you're in a good place where the sound is good, where you're not echoing. Don't record in a room where there's going to be feedback or there's noise outside. Make sure that we can hear you very well. All right, before filming, check to ensure that there's no background noise like the cars moving past or anything like that. So make sure it's as quiet as possible so that your video can be as clear as possible. Then speed. Take your time saying your answers. No need to rush. And remember, slower is sometimes better for non-native English speakers. So take note of pauses and emphasis. All right, so don't rush. Try and communicate your message nice and clearly. And then background, check what's on show. It's nice to have an interesting environment rather than a white wall. Okay, so a simple clutter-free background is ideal. The audience will want to focus on you and your words, not the background. All right, so you don't have to just have a plain background, but just make sure that it's not too distracting. All right, maybe some of you want to record in your business. If you know, maybe do your video in your business so that we can get to see a little bit about it. Totally up to you, but just make sure that it is relevant and it suits the video. And then preparation, rehearse in advance. Don't just take me, I'm a one take wonder, and you go ready, steady, go, and you do it. Okay, so practice once or twice, make sure you get it right, and then it's going to be pretty seamless from there. So I've prepared a pitch from one of the participants who was part of the program last year. This was his pitch video, so let's take a look at that.
My name is I'm 4 years old. I'm a full-time student. I'm currently studying BCom accounting, majoring in investment and corporate finance, and also accounting. I am the owner of Sandwich Bite. Sandwich Bite is a restaurant established in 2020 in Tembisa. We currently have sandwiches, burgers, grills and wraps on our menu, and we occasionally serve ice creams. We have a special burger called Sexy Chubby Burger. Sexy Chubby Burger is the most loved burger in Tembisa. We can make that in Africa because we recently had a customer all the way from Lagos, and the first thing that he told us he wanted to try was our Sexy Chubby Burger. It's a unique burger, authentic, if I may say, because we are the first one to ever produce such a burger called Sexy Chubby Burger. Our products are mainly popular on the youth, given that they like taking pictures with our food, so they make them vibey and vibrant. We use social media as a tool of marketing. We mainly use Instagram, which is a very good tool that has worked for us tremendously well in the past years. The teachers, given that in the burger space, we can go as high as the popular known brands such as Sears and McDonald's. We generate over 30 to 40,000 in revenue, and then we have expenses such as rent, transport, inventory, salaries, and data. I would like to see Sandwich Bite being nationwide. I would like to see Sandwich Bite being popularly known. I would like to see Sandwich Bite as a strong brand in general. And I want to see Sandwich Bite known because I want everyone to know that Sandwich Bite is there, the whole world. And I would like to conclude that Sandwich Bite has learned a lot from Assisa Foundation. I individually have learned a lot from Assisa Foundation. I no longer look at my business income as my own income. I always cherish for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Beautiful. So that's an example of a great pitch. That was Kwabane, who was part of last year's program, all right? And so there's some great tips. That's it for today. We're going to say goodbye in a moment, but let me take this down and let's get all those videos on as we normally do and take our group picture. Yay. Yeah, you see, you guys. So all of you, that's the position you must be in when you do your video. Look how nice the lighting is there. Caroline, check Muraro, the lighting is good there. Rosina, that's a good spot. Molokhadi, that's a good spot there. Hey, Pearl, that's nice lighting there. Wendy, that's good. Palesa, that's good. Darius, you must clean your lens, ne? Just wipe your lens. You look like you are in a cloud there. Let's see. Fountain Link, that's good. Don't film the video in the car though, ne? When you film your pitching video, looking good. That's it, guys. Yeah, looks nice. Alrighty, let's do some pictures. Team, are you capturing the pictures? Everybody's smiling. Everybody say Boca. Alrighty, great to see you guys. As always, it's been such a privilege to be with you guys today. Thank you so much for being on the webinar. Thank you for being on the program. I've certainly enjoyed it. I'm so looking forward to seeing the pictures, learning more about your businesses on the 17th. It's going to be an amazing closeout event. Olivia, I hope you'll be able to join us for that one. I know you were a guest presenter today, but I think you should try and join us for that closeout event. Eh?
Definitely, Darren. As soon as I receive the dates, I will be able to join. Just wanted to say it has been a great 2 hours with you, ladies and gentlemen. And also just to reference back to what we were talking about, the importance of compliance. Go there, start implementing, because the power in being empowered, it's to take what you have learned and implement in your business. And the results there, it will be increase in revenues. The result, it will be success in your business. So start implementing. I know you can do this. You have committed yourself for 8 webinars. And I know, as I have had the feedback, you are ready to present your businesses. You can do this. Go there, flourish, and come back. Don't forget about us. Come back and let us know how your business is. We're looking forward to getting those feedback. Back to you, Darren.
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, everybody. Samkelo, thank you so much for joining us. It was such a pleasure having you on today's webinar. And everybody, we will see you at the final closeout event on the 17th. Have a great Friday. Watch the rugby tomorrow. Hopefully we become world champions again. We love you guys, and we will see you guys on the 17th of November. Bye-bye.